My name is Mary Gorfine. I coordinate the Rochester Olmsted Youth Commission. I think there's been an increasing awareness in our community, and especially among young people, that there are families and children and young adults in our midst who have living situations that are less than optimum. They may be couch hoppers. They may be doubled, tripled, quadrupled up with relatives in a very small apartment. They don't have enough food to eat. They don't have transportation to get to school events or to get to shopping or to the grocery store. And so the Youth Commission has been working with community groups to try to increase awareness of the number of children and families we have in this situation. One of the few people here that doesn't actually work for a school district. I work for the county, but because of my work with the Youth Commission, I work a lot with the public schools, and my employer is the City of Rochester and Olmsted County. So I consider youth commissioners liaisons in their schools and in their faith communities and their neighborhoods between the people that they know and come into contact with every day and the people in leadership positions who can maybe do something to help or improve this situation. I think there are a lot of people at this meeting today from school districts and communities who didn't understand the scope of the homelessness issue. They didn't understand the federal regulations, the McKinney-Vento Act that requires us to take an interest. The McKinney-Vento Act has some mandates, and what I like hearing today from one of the speakers was that there is the letter of the law with McKinney-Vento, and there is the spirit of the law, which is to help children and families in these situations. And I felt really good about the people sitting at my discussion table because it was the spirit of the law that they were getting enthusiastic about. The regulations they took for granted.
School social worker at Jefferson Elementary in Faribault, Minnesota. There is a lot of things that are interesting about today that I didn't know as a school social worker, which I should have known. Just some of the access through the state of Title I funding and the difference between what families in transition are, that we didn't know that we could identify a student as homeless. So I mean that was the biggest thing, is knowing that there's a lot of different variables to that, and not just that if they're on the street that they're homeless. Collaboration is the key, and you learn about different ideas from different school districts, and then you can take that back to your school district and implement it as well.
I'm the special ed coordinator, Title I coordinator for Pine Island Public Schools. Just the collaboration, the amount of resources that are out there coming from a small school district. I'm it right now for a homeless liaison, and just to know that what's step one, who do I contact, where are my resources at, though, seeing people there at the meeting and just hearing the information was a great first step. First off, not to say the word homeless, to parents and students, just getting the word out. All the details, from the laws, from basically the resources are the biggest thing too. I think just, hearing from Ryan up in the cities, knowing that there's groups that meet up in the cities to have that access for questions and concerns, I can, dial someone up. It's more critical in my estimation for the smaller towns to have this, because we don't have shelters, we don't have those community services set up right now. So the school really is the one shouldering a lot of I hope there's more of these kind of get-togethers, these kind of, even if it's informal, having everyone in one room. I think the last question and answer session was great because, you know, there's a lot of good discussion. I wouldn't say disagreement, but we kind of hashed out things, and I mean, that's what we need, you know. If it's just all paper pencil, you lose a lot of the effect and examples, and other districts are feeling the same effect as you, and you can go back and forth in those things. I think that last slide that Melissa showed with just the test scores and the IT students, you know, how far behind they are as compared to the other students. When you go back to schools and you're talking to a math teacher, they may not be as concerned about an IT student, an in-transition student, but when you see the test scores, and that's funded towards, you know, federal funding, if they're not making those standards, they're going to work towards that, whether it's for the best of the child, the school, their job. It's still something that's going to resonate and help us in this process.
What I found unique today was the collaborative atmosphere, the opportunity to bring us all together and to have a chance to talk with one another, have the opportunity to learn together. Another unique aspect is just the complexity of this whole situation. There are no real black and whites. I mean, you think you know what homeless is, and then somebody throws in another variable. And it just makes it much more complex than just trying to fit the letter of the law. I think it was the opportunity to have that discourse, the question and answer panel that we had. But throughout all of the presentations, the speakers were quite knowledgeable, and they were willing to entertain questions. There are times when you deal with the law, sometimes people want to just reference you back to the law, and this is what the law says. And both Elizabeth and Ryan, in their individual sessions, were willing to go into the gray, and there are times that people don't like to go into the gray. That whole panel conversation definitely was the gray, and that was really good. One is that opportunity for collaboration. Whenever you have more heads together, there's a concept known as synergy, and all of us working together can produce far more than just two of us. You know, 1 + 1 + 1 is more than just 3, it's 6 or it's 9, because suddenly ideas are able to flourish. The second reason is because of the complexity. We have a tremendous obligation. School districts, a couple of times it was mentioned today that this is an unfunded mandate. And we have so many unfunded mandates from NCLB to this, to some of our special education requirements. And so just that complexity, the requirements, even though it's unfunded, we're still expected to do it. So those liaisons need to be here so that they don't inadvertently do something that violates somebody's rights. And they would hate to do that. I mean, everybody that's in education is there for the kids, and that's where their heart is, and they don't want to see something happen. And so just for those two reasons alone, just the collaboration, and then because of the complexity of the law and the need to make sure that we are following the law, because we are being held accountable. We have a standard in education that is far different than the standards that exist in the rest of society, rightly or wrongly. It's there, it exists, and we have an obligation to fulfill it. I would say that I had a fairly solid foundation. I've been our homeless liaison, and I know that word is probably, we're not supposed to use it. Elizabeth used HHM, and it took me a long time because she didn't define it. She just had HHM all over these things. Finally, I saw her. There was a little homeless and then highly mobile. And of course, Rochester is using in transition. But anyway, I've been the homeless coordinator for the past 3 years, and so I had a foundation because I've had to deal with this. And so I would say I felt confident coming in. Within the first 20 minutes, I was like, oh my God, I don't know anything. So I would say that I felt good, and I thought that my curve was going to be a little shallow, but my curve definitely took on almost a 90-degree angle for me, just because of all of those complexities and all of those nuances.
Well, I have a new position with Rochester Public Schools. I'm in the Office of Elementary and Secondary Education, and I work with the title monies, and so this is a big part of my job, and so it was very informative for me to learn more about it. One of my main interests was to see, I was very excited to hear what Melissa was doing and trying to establish this organization and group of people together in southeastern Minnesota so that we can have a viable group here and not just have to travel to the cities. And I think that's very positive for the people to have the resources closer. And so that was part of my reason to, see the networking that was going on and the collaboration, and then also to learn more about all the different nuances as well. I think it's exciting. I think that this will continue to grow. I think people were really excited and engaged in today's sessions. And so I think that the awareness will grow. I mean, because all of these people now can take that back to their districts, and hopefully we can identify and service more students, and that's the bottom line and why we're all doing it. I think it's a great start, because I think now that the people that came to the sessions today will go back to their community and be able to help identify. I think that's probably the first step, and then continue to know what the resources are available to them. And then hopefully hearing and seeing some of the information that Melissa, that binder that she put together is awesome with the resources available. And then they can tap into that. And then if this continues, I think people can continue that network and grow it. I think, everybody's in different stages, and I think it will be very valuable to continue the conversations and just to reach out to more people, staff members and the key people in the buildings, so that we can get the services provided to these kids and families. I think it's exciting, and people are ready to see that this is a problem that needs to be dealt with, and we can't ignore it. And that in-transit piece, I think, was really critical, because our idea of homeless has changed immensely, and I think people were embracing that idea and ready to work on it and attack it.